By definition, we're the first choice.
All right. Gentlemen, welcome. Lloyd, let me start with you. When you look at the global economy, right now, what is it, 4 years after the crash, what does it look like to you?
Well, we're definitely in a muddle-through phase, slow growth, very disappointing. But I think one of the things that was achieved, and by the way, in hindsight, this may look small, but while we were living through, it was very large. There was a very substantial chance, too substantial to live with, of things falling off the rail. They're still out there, and a lot of the things that would foster growth are still uncertain and are still, frankly, they're still in the forward. But I think what was taken off the table recently by the central banks acting by themselves and less by governments through fiscal policy was the real blow-up risk. So if you think of a couple of places in the world that we were the most afraid of, like Europe, I think the actions of the ECB to at least defer the problems of the sovereigns and the bank issues in Europe. If they use this time to fix those problems, we'll look back and think it was a good thing. If they've merely deferred them and made them worse in the long term, we won't feel that way. I think something similar has happened in the United States, whereby a lot of liquidity has been provided by the central bank.
So you applaud Ben Bernanke's recent moves to enhance liquidity?
I think given his mandate to fight inflation and to pursue growth, I think, frankly, he has no choice but to exercise those powers. There's no inflation on the horizon. Of course, there's inflationary fears in the long run, but you have the clear and present danger of a deflationary position. And if you'd ask me to weigh the consequences of the two, I would say there's a playbook for dealing with inflation, and there's no real playbook for dealing with deflation, where every day you come in and decide, maybe I better wait for tomorrow when things are cheaper. And so given how much water has passed under the bridge, I would certainly invest a little bit more to make sure we didn't bend back into deflation. I think that's good policy. He has something more than a judgment as to whether it's a good trade-off or not. He has the mandate from Congress to pursue, with an equal measure, growth or anti-inflation behavior. And frankly, the growth issue is much more prominent.
Andrew, you have operations almost all over the world. What is your sense of growth? Because there are troubling reports about growth slowing down in the emerging markets, which have so far been a very powerful lifeline for global growth as the United States and Europe weakened, particularly China, where you do a lot of business.
Let me start where you started, which is optimism. So I don't think we're going to have an 08-09 scenario, and I think we'd all agree with that. Liquidity is out there for the reasons Lloyd was addressing. I do think the world since 08-09 to now has not got a normal. We don't know what normal demand is. And, of course, the obvious, which is consumption in the U.S. is not where it was in the pre-08 period. What's replaced that is government stimuli around the world that has been ineffective in the main. The first Chinese one was very effective. The situation in China right now, I would say, in the B2B industrial world, is we haven't seen this even in the 08-09 period. They're at, in my view, somewhere in the 2% range of growth, not 6, not 7. And that's in the industrial engine. Thousands and thousands of small mediums are having trouble. Our supply chains are weak. And, of course, the slow-motion train wreck that is Europe, and if I can be optimistic there, let's say they're on the rails again. They just need people to drive the trains. So we can maybe get back to Europe later. But certainly that hurt them more than they thought, they being China. In March, China was talking about a smooth political transition and an economic transition from investment to consumption. And they're going to do that domestically. They are. But they're not having a smooth transition, to state the obvious. And it's affected all their state-owned enterprises. And all the consumption out there is not materializing. Exports aren't there. And they're putting in more stimulus. We're seeing that in our business. China's extremely weak. Europe is what it is. The emerging world feeds off of China's growth. So maybe I can finish my run around the world with the one optimistic place we should be thinking very positive about, which is the United States. We have a strong hand right now. Our political process is not allowing us to play it. Capital is a coward. Businesses hate uncertainty. We have uncertainty even in this country on things that matter, not the least of them being our phenomenal energy position, which I can talk more about if you wish. But I would say to you, it's not a 3% world. It's not even a 2 and 2.5% world at this very moment. Outlook-wise, I think post-November, maybe the U.S. gets its act together, whoever the president is, and business and government work together, finally, to really get this economy where it needs to go. So it's not just 65 months, whatever you said, but not more than that of a jobless recovery.
John, whenever we have these conversations, when it turns to technology, the hope is that somehow you guys will magically bring us out of all this, that technology is going to be the thing that gets the American economy moving again. If we are to look for the next drivers of growth, do you see them in technology?
I absolutely do. And if you really look at the opportunities, you go around the world, much as my colleagues have done, and we see the picture remarkably similar. If you look at Europe, you not only see a weakening economy, but you also see, as we said in our last quarter reports, the spending on capital start to drop a lot, same with job creation. I do not think that Asia-Pacific will be as aggressive as we hope they would be in China and India, although, Andrew, I'm a little bit more optimistic on China. I've been there for 25 years. They always find a way to get through. But I think the common takeaway here is this country in the U.S. is known for its entrepreneurial spirit, and unfortunately, it has to be the country that leads out this time. We just do not see the engines in other places. You watch what is occurring in the large enterprise, the commercial markets. That will be the indication of which way we go. We, unfortunately, if you've been pretty accurate in 2007 about the financial slowdown,